Hey everyone, Bobby here from Paypixl. I wanted to take a few minutes this morning and put together a video of what I believe is going on in the tri-state area in New Jersey and New York with the drone sightings. This is something that's important to me as a founder of a company that has a nationwide network of drone pilots conducting services for our customers. It's important for me to really eye the public stigma around drones. And in this case, I have a lot of beef for the way that the government is handling disclosure of what is going on. I believe the government is 100% involved and the driving force behind what is going on. So walk with me through this next few minutes as I put together my case and try to tell you what's going on, why I believe the disclosure is not happening the way we would like it to, and my thoughts on the whole thing. Now, this is my opinion. I do have a secret clearance with the government. I'm not read into any programs. I don't have any insight into what's going on here. And any information that I'm putting out is publicly available. So I wanted to say that up front. So, with that, let's get into this. I am doing this in one take. We're not going to do any editing. I've got to get on a plane here in a couple of hours to go to Dallas. So, you're going to get what you get this morning. I'll try to go through pretty quickly. But let's start off, and I'm going to stick to a script that I've been writing here. Just going to share it with you. So, what I think is going on, the U.S. government's Nuclear Regulatory Commission, in cooperation with the Department of Defense, is using an AI-enabled drone swarms to conduct gamma spectrometry mapping in order to safely decommission nuclear facilities in accordance with Title 10 of the U.S. CFR. The operation consists of technologies that have been recently funded by the DoD's Joint Program Executive Office for Chemical, Biological, Radiological, and Nuclear Defense, DARPA, as well as the Department of Navy and the Department of Army. They're funding these initiatives through OTAs and other grants. Why that's important is OTA funding is essentially like a modern day slush fund. The military hates using that word, but they can fund something with a lot of money with no cap, and you don't have the requirements that you would have in other grants like Small Business Innovation Research Funds or SBIRs. So, with that, I'm going to move on. We're going to talk today about the what, where, and why. So that was the what. And, videos like this have been popping up. This one is from, I believe it was Reddit, uploaded today. It shows some interesting lights off in the distance. But the thing about a lot of these videos that you'll notice is the lights don't appear to be moving very quick. You would expect that activity with helicopters and drones, but not necessarily fixed wing aircraft. And so let's talk about the public perception really quickly and why this is blowing up and why I don't think the government was prepared for such a response from the public. So let's take New Jersey and Monmouth County, and the people around these neighborhoods, they've been there for years, if not most of their life or all of their life, and they know the terrain. Your locals are going to know terrain and what they see in the sky better than most. One thing that I have seen a lot of, more than the videos that are surfacing, are people poo-pooing the idea that people know what they're talking about. There's a massive amount of gaslighting going on and discrediting going on to people who have been at these locations, especially out in the urban areas or the rural areas rather, where there's not a lot of light. They know what they see. They know what's anomalous. And when there's a lot of people recording the sky saying this isn't normal, this isn't right, there's something going on there. They're pointing out an anomaly. When there's not answers for that, there's going to be a lot of concern, especially with the timing of the recent whistleblowers coming out to Congress, bringing up immaculate constellation, that UAPs exist, that non-human intelligence exists. Now you have this going on, and people are going to immediately associate the two when there's not a definitive answer from Congress, from our government, about what's going on. So if the U.S. government is aware of what is happening and they're not sharing it, it looks really sus, right? And it's just going to stoke the fire, which is why I think the government is completely stupid for the way that they've handled this situation. We'll talk about that next. So what's really going on? What's the power behind this? So I'm just going to jump right to this. The Biden administration this year added the last $1 billion to the EPA, what's called the super fund of the EPA. The EPA super fund is intended to clean up waste sites that had chemical, biological, or nuclear materials that aren't safe for alternative uses. So the super fund is intended to go clean up these sites and repurpose them once they're officially cleaned up and give them back to the community. It's kind of a big deal. So $1 billion, this was on February 27, 2024. So this year is a big year for the Biden administration. They're just about to step out of the office. They want to do their last thing and clean up, literally and figuratively, clean up what's on their to-do list. With that, you see news articles like this. The White House presses for Congress to provide more authority to address drones in U.S. airspace. Well, this is concerning for me, especially with my company. I have a vested interest in drone laws that are more lenient in favor of commercial drone operators operating legally in accordance with FAA laws to get the job done for commercial applications and mapping applications across the U.S. That's a big deal for us. And when you have these fragmented laws by counties and states and they're driven by fear, you get the system that is not very easy to operate in, and it just really holds us back in furthering the technology in the drone space. I don't think the American people know just how big of a deal drones are and how much they're going to be part of our life moving forward. And in fact, the purpose of this video today is to show you what we're doing with them and very likely what's going on in New Jersey right now and why that's a big deal and why it's a great application for all of humanity. And it's a great thing. We shouldn't be scared of it. We should be proud of it. We should laud it. And let's move forward. So the Department of Homeland Security pushed out a statement on December 16th, 2024. And I'm just going to read it through in case you can't see it with a screen resolution. There are more than 1 million drones lawfully registered in the FAA with the United States, I read that wrong, and there are thousands of commercial hobbyists and law enforcement drones lawfully in the sky on any given day. With the technology and landscape evolving, we expect that number to increase over time. Okay. FBI has received tips of more than 5,000 reported drone sightings in the last few weeks, with approximately 100 leads generated, and the federal government is supporting state and local officials in investigating these reports. But are they, though? They're not. They're leaving those representatives out to hang. They know what's going on, and they're not telling them what's happening. And these representatives look like assholes on TV, for lack of a better term. Consistent with each of our unique missions and authorities, we are quickly working to prioritize and follow these leads. We have sent advanced detection technology to the region, not entirely false, and we have sent trained visual observers. I bet you have. Having closely examined the technical data and the tips from concerned citizens, we assess that the sightings to date include a combination of lawful commercial drones, hobbyist drones, and law enforcement drones, as well as manned fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, and stars. We have to gaslight a little bit in there because those orbs, they're definitely not aircraft or UAP. They're stars. I digress. We have not identified anything anomalous and do not assess the activity to date to present a national security or public safety risk over the civilian airspace in New Jersey or other states in the Northeast. That's not a false statement. It's ambiguous, and it's intentionally designed to be so. There's another part here. That said, we recognize the concern among many communities. We continue to support state and local authorities with advanced detection technology in support of law enforcement, but they don't know what you're doing. Law enforcement has no clue, and they're handling all these 911 calls because you didn't coordinate ahead of time. Shame on you. How stupid. I'm going to try not to cuss, so we'll see how long that goes. Additionally, there have been a limited number of visual sightings of drones over military facilities in New Jersey and elsewhere, including within restricted airspace. Such sightings near or over DoD installations are not new. The DoD takes unauthorized access over its airspace seriously and coordinates closely with federal, state, and local law enforcement authorities as appropriate. Local commanders are actively engaged to ensure there are appropriate detection and mitigation measures in place. Cool beans. So, we move on. With the EPA. So, the EPA Superfund has identified a list of sites that they're actively decommissioning. And, again, going back to, I think we have something here. Yeah, I wanted to read this. So, this is back to the $1 billion put into the Superfund. Superfund sites threaten public and environmental health across the country, but with today's announcement, the bipartisan infrastructure law is continuing to deliver on the promise we made to clean up backlog sites and give our communities the peace of mind they deserve. Okay, that's fantastic. They're going to repurpose those sites and either sell them off commercially or just put more government installation stuff on it. The government only grows, it doesn't go down. Maybe Doge will do something about that, but we'll see. Has yet to be discovered. So all they're doing is they're taking these sites that are 100 years old and they want to put more facilities on them. So here's the Superfund sites. Here's a map of the Superfund sites that are national priorities on the NPL, the National Priority List. You're going to see a lot of yellow here. These are all different. You have chemical, biological, radioactive, nuclear, CBRNE or CBRN as we call it in the military. And here's another site. This is from the United States Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the big one, the big lion on scene here. Sites undergoing active decommissioning by location or name. Well, you have a few here that are important. Let's see if we can pull them up, if this is going to work for me. You have the Indian Point Nuclear Generating Unit 2. You have the Picatinny Arsenal. And then you have down here Oyster Creek Nuclear Generating Station. What's interesting about this, and they don't show, is you have U.S. Naval Weapons Station Earl in Monmouth County, New Jersey, right here, which is actually on a list of actively decommissioning sites, but for whatever reason, it's not on this map. So the entity that we're going to talk about next is I want to go back and say and where. So this is happening throughout the tri-state area, all the way back into, almost probably 100 miles inland from New York City. But it's important to talk about these operations. They're only at night. The aircraft are flashing strobes and navigational beacons, and they're well lit. They're intended to be seen. And they're happening during the winter months, which I'm going to talk about later, but you don't see a lot of law enforcement activity. You don't see a lot of FBI activity or black SUVs, which you would generally see when you would have a threat of a dirty bomb or a nuke in the city or a broken arrow, which is an incident inside the United States DoD where we've lost a nuke. That's not going on. I'm prior security forces. I was trained as a first responder in the United States Air Force to respond to things like broken arrows. I can assure you that if there was a broken arrow, everyone would know about it really quickly, and we don't take any bullshit as the government. I cussed, sorry. We don't take any BS as the government. We show up, we get her done, and we come with a whole team. We're not doing that right now. This is just drone activity. So there's a lot of things out there that I've seen about a dirty bomb being loose in the city. I'm not going to really speak on that. The first place I saw that was about 15 minutes of Alex Jones talking about it on InfoWars. Immediately put that on the low confidence list, and we're just going to move it to the side. We're going to talk now what we do know about. So the Joint Program, I got to read this. The Joint Program Executive Office for Chemical, Biological, Radiological, and Nuclear Defense. I don't know if they have any cutesy name for this, like JPO CBRND, but JPEO CBRND is the agency within the Department of Defense that produces the capabilities that we're seeing today. This is, in my mind, the unit that is operating out here. And they're the unit that is basically facilitating the testing, the acquisition of technology that we're seeing today. This is the 2023 capabilities catalog, and we're going to go down to robot, and we're going to go down to one of 6 functions within the agency is the JPM CBRN sensors. And this is robotics platforms that they're using to get the job done. And this is the one specifically that we're going to talk about right now, and that is the Sensors Division with CBRN, Sensor Integration on Robotics Platforms, or CSIRP, CSIRP. CSIRP is a prototyping and fielding effort, that will repackage and integrate modular CBRN sensor solutions to enhance unmanned robotic platform programs of records to provide situational awareness across the echelons of command in order to enable freedom of maneuver and action on the battlefield. Holy word soup. DOD. Make it short, dude. I'm from the government. That's why I talk too long and use too many words. We're all verbose. Benefits of the warfighter. CSERP allows warfighters greater freedom to maneuver and operate on the battlefield and provides increased decision space for commanders at all echelons. Just say it's a force multiplier using drones and robots. That's literally all it is. Cool. Cool story. Now we go over to, we're going to go back to the locations in New York City, Picatinny Arsenal Base. Of course, something that Trump owns is going to be in there. And then, the orange spots are the general areas where they're being cited. So I've pulled up 3 from the decommission list, and we're going to talk about Naval Weapons Station Earl, where a lot of these are cited in Monmouth County. They're coming off of the water. Where it's really difficult to get the location, azimuth, heading, direction, timestamps from these videos that are uploaded to Reddit or Facebook or social media. Most of the time, that data is stripped. So I would love to do an analysis on those videos. It's going to be another 100 hours of my time that I don't have. So, but I can just tell you the general area that the drones are seen coming off of the water, going out to the area, spreading out, dispersing, and then kind of just staying in place. Kind of creepy, right? For 6 to 7 hour duration. That's a long time for a drone. So in Monmouth, if we look at the Naval Weapons Station Earl, which is known to contain nuclear warheads, at least at some point in the last 100 years, we can go look down into the area, and I can tell you that these are what are called munition storage areas, or MSAs. These are underground, well, technically on ground with a concealed overground bunker. They're a hardened bunker, and this is where they store weapons. There's over 100 MSAs here. So this is definitely one of the sites. You can look it up online. It's free to look on Google, and Naval Weapons Station Earl is actively being decommissioned so they can start to repurpose that area. No surprise, moving on. Why? Why is the government doing this now? The U.S. government is required to safely decommission nuclear sites within 60 years of closing the site. The Biden administration pumped the $1 billion in funding to decommission these sites via the EPA Superfund, the driving force behind the drone activity being observed in New Jersey. I wrote that. I'm reading it on my other screen. You can see here, this is the NEI.org, how nuclear power plants decommissioning works. The site must be decommissioned within 60 years of the plant closure. The decommissioning process involves blah, 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 blah. What are we doing? What is actually going on? The short of it, and we're going to go into how they're being funded, but you have AI drone swarms that are being boat launched. They imagine what that looks like for just a minute. You have a boat, you have personnel on the boat operated by the Navy or the Coast Guard, and they're going to pull the drone out. They're going to turn it on. It's going to run through the function check. They're going to be like a NASCAR pit crew. They're going to get it ready to launch. Boom, first one goes up. It's holding position, and it moves forward a little bit off the bow of the boat. Second one comes, same thing. Repeat the process. Next one goes up, lines in sequence behind that one. And they start to move forward to give some space on the boat, and they just do this. It's rinse and repeat. Copy pasta. They're going to keep putting these things out. 50, 100, 150. And number of drones. You could have 10 ships putting out 100 each to make 1,000 drone swarm. The number is irrelevant. The capability is absolutely relevant. That are, essentially the drones will line up and get to an altitude where they're going to where they're going to transit to their area of interest or to their assigned area. And next thing you know, you're going to have a line of these drones coming off of the coast that looks like they're coming out of the water when you're beyond the horizon. They get to the area, and then they immediately start to break out. So before I go into the detail of how these work, because this is super cool, and this is where I nerd out as a drone pilot, as a former military grade drone pilot, and a former avionics guy and a pilot myself, a fixed wing pilot. I'm a huge nerd, and I love technology. And the technology here that we're about to talk about is insanely cool. And it exists, and it's been funded, and it's being used right now in New Jersey and New York, and that's what we're seeing. So, first one on the list is Draper. I don't know if they're doing this 100%, but all the signs point to this. So, Draper wins $26 million Pentagon Other Transaction Authority, or OTA, agreement for remote seaburn detection using autonomous teaming drones. Let's read what I've highlighted. The other transactional authority, OTA agreement, was awarded through the Joint Program Executive Office for Chemical, Biological, Radiological, and Nuclear Defenses, JPEO CBRND. Those guys. Draper will integrate flight software and sensor-driven algorithms that enable teams of unmanned systems to autonomously conduct seaburn missions currently performed by single UAS. Not just one, we're going to bring in N number of drones, 100, 1,000, and they're going to work together. Draper will advance the system under an effort at JPEO CBRN called CSIRP, or CSIRP, which stands for Seaburn Sensor Integration on Robotic Platforms. Just to make sure we're talking on the same page, go back here. Remember, Seaburn Sensor Integration on Robotic Platforms, CSIRP. There is your... I'm just going to do this, maybe. Oh, God. That's miserable. Hang tight. I'm struggling. JPEO CBRND capabilities catalog. Now we're on the same page. Cool. A major focus for Draper is to extend a proof of concept, air-ground teaming architecture to link multiple systems into a collaborative autonomy mesh network. With this collaborative teaming approach, every autonomous vehicle, including UAV, UGV, and maritime USVs, work together, relaying critical information among themselves to improve mission performance and operator awareness. These are the modern-day Roombas with wings, with fins, with rollers and feet. It's a bunch of robots using that old SLAM algorithm to take in all the sensor data and make determinations for themselves in order to execute the mission. That is insanely cool. The UAS will use Draper's novel algorithm to synthesize the data from onboard sensors, including GPS, LiDAR, accelerometer, magnetometer, and onboard cameras, to be able to communicate with human operators, lowly humans, who are just babysitting, at a centralized command center and other teamed UASs. Draper's UAS for Seaburn is expected to perform with limited operator interaction, babysitting. A human operator will be able to override the autonomous agent decisions and redirect or abort the mission as needed. If one drone fails in the field, it's gonna identify itself as being a failed component. It's going to come up from the field, ascend to a point where it's in the line of sight of the operator's controls, and autonomously come back or return to home to be fixed and repaired. So you see these videos sometimes where there's just a field of drones that look like they're not really moving. What they're doing is they have gone on site, and now they have this giant area, a polygon that's been assigned by the commander, right, for lack of a better term, the manager, the guy who's overseeing this operation. They draw a big polygon, and they say, we want to map radioactive material in this area, of course, for decommissioning. And so the drones will come in, they'll go to the site, they'll descend into the AOI, and they'll just loiter. And what looks like loitering, they're actually moving very, very slowly over an area, and they're mapping in real time gamma rays on the ground and the amount of gamma rays and the origin of those isotopes to be able to identify where the hotspots are that need to be focused on cleaning up. They turn that map into an action plan to go out and then remove those materials and clean up the site in accordance with the EPA. That's it. That's all. That's what they're doing. So there's a couple of other things that are really cool, though. We look at 6 to 7 hour endurances. That is, for a quadcopter, unless it's tethered, that is just not something that we're used to. I say we're used to because it exists. That had me, and I had to figure out why. And it's kind of weird being not being involved in this stuff. I have been in the past, and I love being on the forefront of technology. Maybe that's why I've read so much into this, but this was the coolest thing yet. So DARPA puts millions behind effort to power drones with ground-based lasers. Raytheon gets $10 million to develop energy webs that could keep the drones in the air indefinitely. This is on December 19, 2023. So all of this comes from the early testing was in 2023, early on, and then some in 2022. We'll get to that last one in a minute. And then everything gets funded December to January 23 to 24. And now we're seeing the deployment of these capabilities and technologies. Can the U.S. military power an entire drone system, including its directed energy weapons, by firing a laser at it? Yeah, DARPA is paying Raytheon $10 million to start working on it. That's not started. It's in the middle of being worked on and probably being fielded right now. Two other teams from Draper, funny enough, and Beamco are also competing in the DARPA effort. Imagine that. It's part of the agency's Persistent Optical Wireless Energy Relay, or POWER program. Raytheon's contract follows the agency's 2022 Broad Agency Announcement, or BAA, seeking companies to demonstrate drones or other platforms that can pass laser energy from a ground source laser through multiple airborne nodes and back down to a ground receiver. What does that mean? Now you have your swarm out in the area. You have a ground laser emitter. It goes into one little beam of light, boop, passed into the first drone. It goes into the receiver of that drone, and they're locked on a gimbal, like two eyeballs looking at each other on moving platforms, and they're locked in. And it's taking what it needs from that laser to charge itself, and then taking mirrors and passing that beam of light actively into an emitter that is also gimbal mounted and looking at the next drone downrange. So each of these drones will have a sequential number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and say there's 100 drones in a grid, and they're all passing a laser through it. All gimbal mounted receivers and emitters. And by the way, laser emitter receivers are the same thing. Fun fact. I'm going to get crushed by people for that. So whatever, go in the comments and attack me. I'm used to it. So these things are going to pass from one to another, and real-time speed of light shit. When that operator turns on the laser, they're going to see everything charging. So you can see, imagine like little battery icons, and they're all red. He turns on a laser and they all go green. And say like drone 72 fails for whatever reasons. It's out of sync, or motor's not working. It's not able to line up. It's not able to take that laser. It's you can see immediately everything downrange of that drone is powered off. So you would think in a smart system with the AI mesh, in theory, that drone would go up and ascend out of the field into the path to return to home. So it would get to the return to home altitude and go straight back to the ship. Well, because it's off of the laser powering, it's running on its own battery power, it's going to go fast. So you're going to see something go from maybe a few knots or a few miles per hour max, and then just kind of shoot up and then haul ass 60, 70 knots back to RTH to return to home and go get worked on. While drone 71 is going to come in place. I think we use 70. I might be off. But the next drone in the sequential list is going to take that position. And all those red batteries that you see are now going to flash green because they've synced up. They've connected the two drones that were gapped by that drone that was replaced, and now everyone's happy. The beam is passed through, and they fly indefinitely. So I kind of went into the weeds a little bit on that, but super cool. I'm nerding out. You power the swarm with an indefinite flight endurance. That's why the government's not telling you this stuff. It's out there. I mean, this is on Defense One. It's an article. Here's the deal: when the government provides grants to companies like mine, or a private company, they want to do two things. They want to fund that company to build something for the government, but they also really are focusing on making sure that company has some kind of commercial application. So it's on us as business owners to really tout what we have. We brag about our product because we have to. It is the way that we survive, not just off of these grants, but on the commercial application. So you can expect any company that's doing business with the government is going to brag about their product, and that's literally where I found all of this. So the last part, and this is pretty cool too, and timely, Northrop unveils DARPA shipboard drone concept for Navy tactical missions. And you can see here, as the illustration shows, the defense, let's say called DARPA. DARPA's Tactical Technology Office awarded a contract to Northrop Grumman for designing an autonomous VTOL aircraft system. Photo, U.S. Navy. Illustration courtesy of Northrop Grumman. Is that what's flying out there? Well, we've seen other aircraft like the Pterodynamics, the folding wing, and all of that VTOL aircraft, and it could be. It could be, but let's move on. The as yet unbuilt aircraft has been given a typically terrible Defense Department acronym, ANCILLARY, which stands for Advanced Aircraft Infrastructureless Launch and Recovery. The Northrop Grumman-built demonstrator should be a cost-efficient, multiple-mission-capable vehicle built on an agile platform that is a runway-independent aircraft. Northrop is one of 9 companies awarded contracts in late June to produce initial operational system and demonstration system conceptual designs for the DARPA program. Trust me when I tell you that we are a lot farther along at this point in 2024. These things already exist because they're at every trade show you go to for commercial and military drone applications. And DARPA foresees a relatively small drone weighing somewhere between 250 and 300 pounds, 6 foot diameter, size of an SUV, so that several can be deployed on a single ship. They're the ones that are launching the drone swarms provided by Draper. That's it. That's all we have to do. There's not much more to talk about. So, as I close this video, I hope you appreciate it. I don't know what's going on here. I can't play this. Yes, I can. I'll leave you with this. It was uploaded on Reddit this morning. So in a nutshell, to cap it all off, we are flying AI-enabled drone swarms to detect radioactive material, specifically gamma ray spectrometry mapping, to identify where nuclear and radioactive material currently exist on land that we want to repurpose and make safe for people to work at without suing the government. That's all. So why would the government not disclose that? Simply because it is, it's not U.S. policy to disclose anything regarding nuclear munitions, storage, or locations. So you're just generally going to get a blanket statement from the government like, I don't know. Well, I'm not the government. And, people are pissed. People are mad at the way the government's responded to this. We see what we see. If it's an anomalous thing and a lot of people are seeing it, you're going to cause a lot of concern in the public. There's going to be distrust with the government that increases. Clearly, the people in charge don't give a fuck. There it is, I cussed, about how the people feel. A little bit of pressure from the representatives, from the elected officials that are going to give them money next year. And every time they go before Congress to request more money in their budget, so they got to keep them happy. But the public doesn't do anything for the government. And the government feels like it's better and superior to the public. Ask me how I know. When I was in the military, I felt the same thing. I felt it from my leadership. I felt it high up. When I was a contractor, same thing. When you go through this vetting system and you get your secret clearance, you feel like you're better than other people. Sometimes that can go to your head, and unfortunately, I think systemically, our government is really bad about not recognizing its role in the country the way it should be. The government ultimately works for the public. So do the congressmen, the representatives, the senators that, are on TV. We call them leaders, but they're there for us. So when the government does stupid shit like this and they don't announce what they're doing or give partial disclosure up front, and they cause a lot of panic and they cause a lot of problems, and then they come and gaslight you from the American people, fuck right off. And that's super unprofessional of me. Take it or leave it. But that's super shitty. You would have caused a lot less drama had you just come out and said, hey, we're going to be doing some mapping in this area, just to let you know. So people could find that quickly. Even if it wasn't mass distributed, news agencies could get a hold of it. Mass media would be able to publish it. And your law enforcement would know what's going on when all the 911 calls come in. So stop being dumb. Do better. You have billions of taxpayer money that you're throwing around and making technology. How about you hire a psychologist and PR to come and keep you in your place? That's all for me. Thank you very much. I hope you guys have a great holiday break coming up. Merry Christmas to everybody. I pray that 2025 is better for everyone than 2024 was, and I'll leave it at that. Ciao.